the UN World Tourism Organization's regional three-day conference on Brand Africa kicked off today. The seminar in the capital is themed Strengthening Brand Africa for the Swift Recovery of the Tourism Sector. Joining us on the line is the Chief Public Relations Officer from the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism, Romeo Muyunda. Good evening, Mr. Muyunda, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening and good evening to all the viewers.
Now, Mr. Muyunda, did the rising number of COVID-19 cases in the country have any effect on attendance?
Yes, generally. Even though the conference attracted a lot of interest across the continent, following the announcement of the current measures against COVID-19 in the country, we were forced to cut on the number of delegations that were coming to attend this conference so that we adhere to the limit. So far, the limit is 50, and so we had to adhere to that. In general, there was a keen interest from African member countries to attend the conference, but the limitation really was the current COVID-19 protocols in the country.
Mm-hmm. So then how is your team navigating through this, that you have to adhere to the COVID regulations where your number of attendees can only be 50? Is there a virtual conference perhaps? Yes,
we have put a number of measures to navigate through these implications. One of them is really just to, like I've mentioned, to reduce the numbers of participants that are attending the conference. The other one also is to ensure that we make provisions for virtual participation, especially for people that are outside the country and some tourism operators within the country. Platforms such as Zoom and live streaming on various social media platforms are available. In addition to that, in the conference rooms, we are really observing issues of social distancing as well as constant or wearing of masks at all times. And then also the gatherings has been split into two different halls, and also we are splitting discussions by means of breaks.
Mm-hmm. Now, as we're seeing on our screen, or just saw on our screen, visuals from the conference, well, the conference is focused on the revival of the tourism sector amid and post-COVID-19. Now, indications, of course, now are that the pandemic will remain still with us for some time. What are the considerations in trying to resuscitate and promote tourism, both in the local context and globally, Mr. Muyunda?
There are a combination of factors that are to be considered. I think on top of the list, already one should consider how the pandemic continues to evolve. And this is coupled with the availability of measures to control the pandemic, such as vaccines. So this will have a lot of influence, also depending on whether the numbers are increasing or rising. It will have a lot of influence in terms of how countries are imposing or lifting restrictions in terms of traveling. These restrictions are the ones that are currently affecting travel sectors like tourism. The other thing to be considered really is just the safety of our people, of our travelers. Safety has now become one of the biggest commodities, especially in the travel industry. So there is a need for us as a country and as a globe to really build the confidence of the travelers that it is safe to travel. Which brings me to really my last point on this is the attitude of our people in terms of COVID-19. Our attitude will also influence whether or not Africa and Namibia, to be specific, will soon see a swift and quick recovery in terms of the tourism sector, but not only the tourism sector, in terms of all the economic sectors in general.
Now, Mr. Muyunda, as we conclude our interview this evening, can you take us through the program starting today? What are the activities that are lined up?
The highlights are that the conference started today on the 14th of June, and it started with a training of Namibian SMEs on branding. It continued later during the day where chief executive officers of tourism boards from different countries in Africa convened as well to discuss on how they can brand the continent. Tomorrow, the 15th of June, is going to be the second day, and it will start with the official opening of the conference, which will be done by the President, His Excellency Dr. Hage Geingob. And that will be followed by a think tank meeting of ministers who will also discuss on how to improve the image of Africa so that we move away from the negative stereotypes. That will also be followed by a session on the importance of branding and the evolution of Namibia destination brand before the conference is concluded with a declaration on an action plan.
All right, Mr. Muyunda, thank you very much for joining us this evening, and all the best with the rest of the days of the conference.
Thank you very much for having me.
Right. Well, that was the Ministry of Environment spokesperson, Romeo Muyunda, updating us on the Brand Africa conference that started in the capital today. We move on to